please take the time to understand your body and understand the impact that you have on just small lifestyle changes.
Welcome to At the Heart of It. Welcome to At the Heart of It. I'm Nancy Brown, CEO of the American Heart Association. For men, the lifetime risk of getting breast cancer is about 1 in 833. My next guest has been breaking down barriers and breaking records his entire life. But there's one record that he never wanted to break, and that was being diagnosed with breast cancer, which he calls male chest cancer. Get ready for some wisdom on education, self-care, and taking care of business.
He's a man of many talents. Meet Mathew Knowles. He's best known as the manager of Destiny's Child. But not only that, Mathew's a speaker, author, entrepreneur, and university lecturer. Mathew also manages the film and TV division within APX Capital Group, where he is gearing up for a film project highlighting how he helped his daughters, Beyonce and Solange Knowles, become global superstars. Beyond jumpstarting his daughters' entertainment careers, Mathew has worked with other big-name artists, including Shaka Khan, Earth, Wind and Fire, and the OJs. Passing the torch, Mathew also holds a professorship at the University of Houston, Prairie View A&M University, and the Art Institute. Now, hear how Mathew is taking control of his health and helping other men do the same.
Mathew, welcome.
Thank you, Nancy. It's good to see you again. It's been a while, but it's great always just to have a conversation with you.
Always good to see you, my friend. Let's start with some fun questions to get us going this morning. I call these my signature 5. What is the last show you watched or streamed?
The last show I watched or streamed was Blackish.
Ah, good one. How about the last great meal you had?
Last night, just vegetables, grilled, delicious.
I knew you were going to...
My wife's become a great cook from the pandemic, by the way.
Oh, good. It sounds like you're eating healthy, so that's good too. What was your first job?
My first job would have been, because I worked so many as a kid, at Goodyear Tire and Rubber Plant, my freshman and sophomore year of college.
All right. How about the last book you read?
I'm reading this book right now called Why Solange Matters.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, we know you have a vested interest in that one. That's good. What is your superpower?
Well, I don't think I have a superpower. I do think that I've learned some amazing skills, Nancy, in life. I'm 70 years old now, so wisdom really has become my superpower. If there was one, it would be wisdom.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you are wise. I remember the first day I met you, probably almost 20 years ago, when you became involved in our Power to End Stroke movement, and you and I instantly hit it off. And what I know about you over all these years is that you're an author, you're a professor, you are a lecturer, a motivational speaker, a music executive, an artist manager. You are a fighter and a cancer survivor. And I probably could come up with more words if I had more time to think of them. But these words sum up the life and career of Mathew Knowles. Help our listeners get to know you.
You know, I'm very proud of my upbringing. I grew up in a small town in Gaston, Alabama. Parents weren't rich. Actually, grew up on a dirt road until I was about 12, 13 years old. But my parents gave me a lot of life lessons, and they were entrepreneurs. I have 3 generations of entrepreneurs in our family. So entrepreneurship was a life lesson that they gave. My father one word explained him: kind. And so my parents were gentle, kind people, and I learned a lot of giving back from them.
Kind is a great word. I think all of us would love to be thought of as kind. Tell us about your work when you were selling medical equipment, because I think that really helps us segue into some of the health related discussion I'd love to have today.
Yeah, I mean, in college, science was not my thing. I think I got a D plus in biology. Uh, so who would have thought I ever would transition into the medical field? But for 20 years, well, 19 years, I sold diagnostic imaging equipment, starting out with Xerox, selling copiers for a year and did extremely well in that, and did a quantum leap promotion until to the Xerox medical systems. Ironically, the product that I sold the knowledge that I learned came to save my life. I sold zero radiography, which in the 80s was a leading modality for breast cancer detection, and was fortunate to be the top salesperson worldwide 3 out of 4 years, and then went on to work with Philips to sell MRI, CT scanners, and finished my career with Johnson and Johnson as a neurosurgical specialist.
Yeah. All of that is so impressive because so many people know you for your career as an leader of artists and a manager of singers and as a teacher and an author. But I love that part of the background about you because it really describes your deep knowledge about health and well-being. And when we first met at the Apollo Theater for a Power to End Stroke event, I remember it like it was yesterday, and it truly was at least 15 to 20 years ago. You and I hit it off instantly because you started talking about the responsibility you felt you had to help other men understand their risk factors for heart disease, stroke, elevated blood pressure. And so when I got a call from you 2 years ago, you shared with me that you had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was very honored to have the opportunity to work together with you on a plan for you to share this news with the world. Tell us how you're doing now. And more importantly, what was it like to tell this story?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you know, Nancy, you were one of I think you were call number 2.
Yeah.
When I found out that I had male chest cancer, breast cancer. Because I wanted to build this team. I wanted to understand more. And it's been a real life lesson for me. Who would ever thought when we were in New York, in Harlem, at the Apollo, that one day, and I'm giving a check and giving a presentation, that one day I would be a patient as well. Who would have ever thought that at Xerox Medical Systems, when I was a top salesperson, that one day of class, because there was a lot of training, and we talked about male breast cancer, and we talked about the symptoms of male breast cancer. Who would have ever thought that one day would impact my life like it has? Because knowing and having information about heart disease and about cancer is very critical. I've learned a tremendous amount about both over the last 2.5 years. I'm running up on 3 years coming up in July, knock on wood. But what I found out with BRCA2 is that I have a greater risk factor in having prostate, pancreatic, melanoma cancers, as well as breast cancer. So it's, again, about getting knowledge and sharing that information. Most folks thought that once I got cancer, I wanted to share, but that's always been in my DNA to give back in this area.
No question. And again, that's how we first met, is you were on a mission to help men understand that elevated blood pressure could lead to stroke, could lead to heart disease. And now you're on this mission to educate others about your experience, which I think is such an incredibly brave thing for you to do. Tell us what your message is. What do you want other men and their loved ones to know?
Well, my first message would be understand the genetics of all of this. And there's many tests out there that you can get genetic testing. Understand both cardiovascular genetic testing as well as cancer. And once you get that information, for me, it was a lifestyle change. I had to work on my weight. Obesity is not a good thing for either cardiovascular or cancer. I didn't smoke, thankfully, so that wasn't an issue. I had to change my diet. I used to eat a lot of fatty foods, hypertension, high blood pressure, and stress, all related, especially in the Black community and with Black men. And when I research and I look at the mortality rate of Black men in America, we lead in every category, Nancy, percentage-wise. The only category we don't lead in the highest mortality rate is breast cancer and suicide rates. Yeah. Other than that, Black men lead percentage-wise in every category.
This is why your voice and your message have been so impactful, and you have truly touched so many lives. And recently, you lent that influential voice to increasing awareness about COVID-19 vaccination use among those living in medically under-resourced communities. Tell us about the barriers you see, what solutions are available, and why did you focus on this?
Well, for a number of reasons. And we partnered with an organization that came up with an idea called Flex Checks, and those who got vaccinated. But when you look at poverty, which stems from lack of education, there is a rumbling effect in our lives. You find someone with lack of education, there's poverty, then you find their living conditions are not what the average is. And then you look at their health and wellness and early detection and having a physician for the family. So this education becomes so important in America because it controls every aspect of our life, even how we think about racism and sexism. All of that is based on education and income. And you can't have an income if you don't have education.
Yeah, so true. And of course, without education, one doesn't recognize perhaps the ways that healthcare can be accessed, the importance of things like vaccination, screening for risk factors, all of the things that I know that you stand for. And the world is very lucky to have you as an advocate on all of these issues. Education, I know, is so important in your life. And, we've talked about skills being transferable. You transitioned from being the top salesman in corporate America to being a music executive to being an educator and an influencer. How are you using all of those skills in your life today? And tell us about why transformations are important in our own lives.
I believe that each and every one of us at some point of our lives are defining moments. For me to get into the music industry really stemmed from a medical case I was having at a hospital, and a neurosurgeon called me to his office and told me my instruments cost too much. And that was a defining moment because I knew I was no longer passionate about what I was doing. And then I went into the music field. That moment that I heard that I had cancer. And once I heard the word, Mr. Knowles, you have cancer, I immediately went, it's a moment that you're quiet, that you're still. And I thought about what was on the back of that card, which was pray not for a life free from trouble, pray for triumph over trouble. For what you and I call adversity, God, the universe, whatever name you use, calls opportunity. Right. So I view me being diagnosed with cancer and becoming a cancer survivor as an opportunity to share on my platform to others the importance of health and wellness, the importance of early detection. I'm fortunate, I'm stage 1A. I was stage 1A. I only have to take, a pill. I'm very grateful, very fortunate, because what we don't also understand is when we look at cancer, for example, it ties into heart stress because once you're taking chemo and some of the other medicine, it affects your heart. So there's a tie in there to all of this.
There sure is. And of course, in addition to genetics, which can cause cardiovascular diseases, cancer, stroke, the risk factors for heart disease and cancer are very similar. And as you said, the drugs used in cardio-oncology, the cardiovascular effects of oncology treatments, it's all related, but all very centered on the person. And I love that statement that you just read, because life is about triumphing over the challenges that we face. Now, what's the best advice you have received, and who gave that advice to you?
Well, the best advice that I've ever received was really when I was a kid. My parents would always instill in me that I could do whatever I dreamed I could do and to never stop dreaming. I believe that those who get the opportunity to really live their passion, that thing that excites them, Nancy, I get excited even today knowing that you and I were going to have this conversation. I was really excited. Passion is so, so critical that we live our passion, whatever that is, because what coexists with passion are work ethics. And that's why you see these people uber successful, work so hard at it, but they're having fun because they're doing what they love. And so that's would for me be learning to live your passion, because then you never work a day in your life.
Such great advice. Changing gears, Mathew, what would surprise people to know about you, and what do you do for fun?
Well, I answer that backwards. For fun, my wife and I have now been married 10 years, amazing woman. My best friend, we live in Orange County here in California, and we get to see mountains and waters. And now at this point in my life, in this season of my life, I stopped to smell the roses. I never used to look at flowers or trees or the beauty of walking a mountain or a trail. I never, ever did that. Never. And so those are the things now that are important, that I get to share that with the person that I really, really love. And that's my wife.
That's wonderful. And, taking time to appreciate the environment around us is wonderful. And I'm glad you're smelling the flowers and enjoying healthy walks with your beautiful wife. Health challenges often lead to a new perspective. And I think you've already talked a little bit about some of the perspective changes for you, whether it's eating healthier, focusing on your weight, enjoying every moment of your life. Do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Well, again, the thing that I think is just very, very important is that we understand early detection. You find it early, you have a different outcome. And so that means that we have to understand those risk factors that are out there for women getting mammograms, for others of us making sure that we keep up with our our blood pressure. It's about really paying attention to those areas, especially as we get older. Our bodies change, and it's about knowledge again. That's what I would want to leave with people is please take the time to understand your body and understand the impact that you have on just small lifestyle changes. We exercise, we don't have to. 2.5 years ago, I started out after my cancer surgery, and I was jogging, and then I found I don't really need to do that. I can jog for like 15, 20 minutes. And so sometimes we just need to get the information that we need on healthy living. That's what's important. And it's out there. You can do this thing called Professor Google and find all the information out.
I love it. From one professor to another, right, Mathew? Thank you so much, Mathew, for being my guest today. I am always inspired by you, and I'm always so grateful to you because you think about the importance of using your platform to help every other person in this country and around the world. We are incredibly grateful to have you as a friend and a supporter of the American Heart Association. And for me personally, I consider you among my closest friends. Thank you, Mathew Knowles. Thank you for being brave and sharing your story. And thank you for joining us on At the Heart of It.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I just want to tell you in closing, I'll never forget when I needed you, you were there for me. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Mathew Knowles is an incredible human being, and every time I speak with him, I learn something new. Today, what I think about is his focus on defining moments in our life that give us a chance to maybe reframe how we're approaching our lives, what we do with our lives, and how we think about the opportunities in front of us. Mathew spoke about several defining moments in his life, whether it was back when he was selling healthcare equipment or when he was diagnosed with breast cancer. The defining moment of taking control of our lives, being focused on our health and our well-being, these are things that Mathew thought about before as a Power to End Stroke ambassador for the American Heart Association, but I appreciate and admire how brave he has been in talking about what could be considered a sensitive subject, all to benefit other people. So if we can each take away from Mathew Knowles the importance of focusing on ourselves, using every day as a day of joy and a day to enjoy our surroundings, to get our screenings, to eat healthy, to get exercise, I think we can all thank Mathew Knowles for reminding us of that importance. I'd love to know what you have taken away from our conversation today. Please subscribe, comment, and share. I'm Nancy Brown. Thank you for joining us.
On the next At the Heart of It, finding balance in our lives no matter the circumstances.
You have to come in ready to prove your worth and while you're there, and then be true to yourself.
Learn how sports journalist Jen Hale found the strength to advocate for her well-being. Next At the Heart of It.